somewhere. Bill Gravel, our Williamson County judge, should be over here. You can do, yeah, you can go ahead for this part, come up here.
Stand up. Can I do that?
I like to stand.
Can I take that?
Yeah.
Well, good evening. If I haven't met you, my name's Bill, and I serve as your county judge here in Williamson County. And it's an honor to be here in Liberty Hill tonight. I have to tell you, though, I'm a little surprised we're not out watching the football game because there are a lot of folks out there at the stadium tonight. You know, as county judge, I serve as the chief executive officer, and I made a commitment 4 years ago that my top priority as county judge would be public safety. And myself, along with the county commissioners, we serve together. There's a team of 5 of us. Some of you think perhaps a county judge is a judicial function, but in fact, in this environment in Williamson County, it's an executive function. So I serve with 4 other commissioners. Commissioner Long is one of those. She is the best county commissioner that I serve with that's in the room tonight. And that was funny, you'll get that later. But we serve together, we make up a team of 5, and we work hard. And one of my commitments 4 years ago, before becoming county judge, is that public safety would be my top priority. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we've accomplished in the last 4 years. Now, do we have a timer? Because I want to know when my stopping point is.
Well, we've got a sign. We'll hold it up when you got a minute left.
Perfect, good. I just didn't, I'll have to put my trifocals back on when we get there.
When you see us go like this, it's a minute.
Yep, thank you. So public safety's been a top priority. Here's what we've accomplished in the last 4 years in Williamson County. We've added 74 new personnel, whether they're deputies on the street patrolling or whether they're paramedics in new EMS stations. In the last 4 years in Williamson County, we've added 42 new employees into our criminal justice arena, whether it's our district. A day or 2 after that, Governor Abbott appointed Justice Jeff Field, who had served on the 3rd Court of Appeals, now will be the new district judge of the 480th District Court. So why did I make public safety our #1 priority? It's pretty simple. I think that what's going on in Washington, D.C. is broken. And I think that what's going on in Austin, Texas is crazy. But I think that what we do here in Williamson County works. And the reason why Liberty Hill is one of the fastest growing regions in the world and in America, it's because folks can move to our community, they have great schools to attend, and they feel safe in their community. Now let me just ask you a simple question. If it's you and your significant other, and you have an opportunity to go out for dinner, how many of you still go to downtown Austin to eat dinner? There's a few. My wife and I, we choose not to go to downtown Austin. You know why? Because I don't feel safe. I believe Austin is abandoned supporting law enforcement, and I think we're seeing the dividends and the results of that. And here in Williamson County, I want you to understand this. I believe our criminal justice system should be fair. I believe we should give defendants their right. But I believe if they break the law, we should hold them accountable. In Austin, you can commit almost any offense except murder, and you'll be booked and released that night on a low bond. Listen, that is not the American way. That is not the Texas way, and that is not Williamson County. And that is what is broken and what a crazy place to be. Listen, as your county judge, as long as I serve, I will continue to make public safety our #1 priority. The second priority that's important to me as county judge that I made a commitment for is that we would reduce the tax burden on our residents. Now, here's what's interesting. Every person I know complains to me about the increase in the appraised values. And I listen to them graciously, and I say to them, I have no authority, I have no power, I have no control over the rate that the appraisal district sets on your home. But conversely, though, and this is what I think is a bit humorous, is that every individual, when they sell their home, they don't run to me and say, hey, Judge, thank you for continuing to make Williamson County safe. Thank you for continuing to support our schools. What they're doing is they're running to the bank and cashing their checks because they are receiving a high value on their property. In Williamson County, we've cut the tax rate for our residents, and Commissioner Long led the initiative to increase the homestead exemption. And finally, I would conclude with this. The only way that I know to lower your tax rate is to bring in large businesses that make sense in Williamson County. And you know what? I've worked hard on that. We initially brought in Samsung for $17 billion in appraised property value.
And $1 billion giveaway.
And almost $184.5 billion in expansion. And by the way, I don't mind incentivizing big businesses when they come here if they're going to be good community partners. But the great news in incentives for businesses, it brings them here so our residents don't have to drive in downtown Austin and go to work. They can work right here in their backyard. I am Bill Gravel, your Williamson County Judge, and I humbly ask for your vote on November the 8th. God bless you and thank you.
All right, let's see. So, Bill does have an opponent running, Blaine, who was unfortunately not able to
Where's
be
Blaine?
here. Where is he?
Where's Blaine tonight?
He's not here.
Why is he not here?
Because he had another
Why is
engagement.
Blaine not here?
So here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to engage with you. I will explain to you that there was a miscommunication between he and I, and the chamber and I. We had a long conversation trying to figure it out. We got it worked out, but he did have another engagement. He did want me to emphasize that it was important for him to be here tonight, and it wasn't his own choice not to be here.
No, it was this lack of
So-
information. Why he's not here tonight?
Okay. So I'm not taking outbursts from you right now.
Oh, free country, just trying to state Blaine's position.
It's not a free room for you right now,
He
sir.
wasn't invited.
Okay.
Just so everybody here knows, Blaine wasn't invited, and you tried to patch it up late, but
He was invited.
you spin it how you want. I'll let it go. But so everybody knows, that's not how it turned out.
I'm not going to argue with you. I don't even know your name.
Dave!
So, next up. What do we have? All right, Bridget Lester, running for county commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Hello, Liberty Hill. I'm Colonel Bridget Lester, and I'm running to be your county commissioner. I'm a 24-year veteran, got my commission out of West Point, and I have civilian job experience in project management, contracting, and civil engineering. The judge is right. Our #1 responsibility is safety. Not because it was his idea, that's the #1 responsibility of government, at any level. Safety is critical for good commerce, which is the lifeblood of a vibrant community. This is not an event where we are comparing ourselves to Austin or the federal government. This is a referendum on Williamson County and our safety record. The current court has taken many actions, and in some cases inactions, to compromise the safety, and in so doing, are jeopardizing the hope of long-term successful commerce in Liberty Hill. In the interest of time, I will provide only a few examples, and I will tell you how I will handle things differently. First responders. This court has chosen to underfund the sheriff's office, law enforcement, corrections, and EMS. Underfunding directly influences a lot more than their salaries. It affects training, manning, facilities, equipment, morale. My opponent's refusal to fund this growing need is endangering both first responders and us. Due to pay disparity, many officers have moved to local police departments, creating vacancies in the sheriff's office. To add insult to the situation, my opponent has frequently suggested that the vacancies are due to a lack of leadership in the sheriff's department, rather than her own short-sightedness. I find that disgraceful. I support law enforcement. As a combat veteran, I have firsthand understanding of what it means to put on the uniform and to stand in harm's way. In exchange for the security these fine women and men provide us, society has a moral obligation to provide them with as safe a working environment as possible. I will support full funding for all safety-related issues and expenses for our first responders. They know I understand and truly back them. I think that's why they pulled their endorsement from my opponent and gave it to me. Water. The scarcity of water in our area threatens agriculture, businesses, and our very way of life. It may be the most urgent existential safety issue we face. As you know, the vast majority of water here in Liberty Hill comes from wells, and they draw from the Trinity Aquifer. Williamson County does not have sufficient controls and permits for wells, and now many wells are going dry. Your wells. For reasons that cause me pause, my opponent absolutely refuses to even discuss the idea of a water conservation district. I will support the immediate institution of a groundwater conservation district to protect our water. One of the main reasons this is so urgent is that Wilco is surrounded by counties that do have GCDs. Right now, businesses that use huge amounts of water are drawn to Williamson County because it's more available. Securing a long-term water plan allows our community and our businesses to stay here for the long haul and flourish. Thirdly, roads. As our community grows and more people move here, our roads need to keep up. My opponent, who is largely funded by developers and contractors who do not even live in this precinct, likes to spend money on new roads. She heartlessly plots roads across homes, ranches, because they meet the needs of the contractor. She then uses outdated maps to falsely reflect a minimal impact of her new roads. She even got caught in a lie to the Liberty Hill Independent about the status of the I-2 corridor plans. I would excuse this as an honest mistake if this were the first time she had shaded the truth. One of the most dangerous things in Liberty Hill is the status of our roads, not the new ones, the existing ones. I will put renewed focus on repairing and upgrading the terrible roads that are already in existence. When it comes to plotting new roads, I will consult residents, not developers, to decide what is the most advantageous for Liberty Hill. Do you realize that in response to the I-2 corridor, the proposed I-2 corridor, that the residents of Liberty Hill met and plotted an alternative route? It met all of the engineering, operational, and safety requirements stated in the RFP, and it displaced fewer residents. My opponent ignored their needs, and she went to work and voted on the road that she wanted to build. I will represent the needs of the people of our county. In the end, I think the biggest distinction between me and my opponent is our focus and our motivation. While I completely understand that growth is a wonderful thing to happen, it should not happen at the expense of those of us who live here already. My focus is you, not some short-term game for a developer who doesn't even live here. The people of Williamson County are not interested in career politicians that seek only to serve themselves. The voters have shown us that the letter behind their name is no longer enough to win an election. They want integrity and selfless service. You've probably noticed my signature color is purple. You know what purple is? I mean, besides our high school's color. It's the color you get when you mix red, white, and blue. And that's the type of person I am. The perspective I will have as your commissioner. I know that one of the main reasons the Deputies Association offered me this endorsement. I'm not in this for personal gain. As a good faith example of that, I have openly stated that I will be donating large portions of my salary to local nonprofits. I've already spoken to Susan Baker, and she knows that Operation Liberty Hill is on that list. I am strong, compassionate, capable. I'm a selfless leader with military, civilian, and community experience. And once elected, things will be better with Bridget. Thank you.
All right, and next up, Cynthia Long, our current county commissioner. Go ahead, Cynthia. You can pull that up if you want. Or you can use the
That's great, thank you. As Daniel said, I'm Cynthia Long, and I am your county commissioner. I'm not going to waste your time tonight addressing the false narratives and half-truths that my opponent just spewed out, but rather I will share with you some of the important things that impact Liberty Hill that have been accomplished under my leadership. Thank you, Chamber, for hosting the forum this evening, and also for the things you do to make Liberty Hill a great place to work and live. My name is Cynthia Long, and I have the privilege of serving as your county commissioner. While the administration in Washington is a dumpster fire, at the county level, we've been getting things done. We have stuck to the fundamentals that I am guided by. That's faith, family, and freedom. The judge mentioned property taxes, and one of the things that I have done on the Commissioners Court is I have led the adoption of the residential homestead exemption, which is now at 5% of your home's value. I've also led the charge to increase the exemption for disabled persons and for individuals over 65. That is now at $125,000. I've championed property tax rate decreases. The rate has gone down over 30% since I've been in office. Because of my leadership at the homestead exemption level and the Commissioners Court fiscally conservative approach to managing and budgeting, for the last 2 fiscal years, the property tax bill of the average resident's homestead in Williamson County has gone down. That's not your overall tax bill. That's not the school part or if you live in a mud or whatever. That's the county portion, but it's gone down. You know, Liberty Hill residents utilize and access a lot of county services. And as commissioners, one of our main jobs is to set the county budget and to set the tax rate. But a lot of the services you utilize in Liberty Hill, you're affected by what the county does. That includes EMS, law enforcement, first responders, their emergency radio system, 911 call taking and dispatching, the judicial system, the county road system, county parks, just to name a few. In this recently passed budget, law enforcement and corrections officers received substantial pay increases. And it was a unanimous vote by the entire Commissioners Court. We funded public safety, and we will have the best, some of the officers with the best pay in the county. And we are proud of that record. I have continued to support law enforcement, and I'm proud to announce that I'm endorsed by our Constable Jeff Anderson, by our former Constable Rick Kaufman, by former Sheriff James Wilson, by Constable Paul Leal. The leaders in this county in law enforcement understand and they've seen the impact of our votes and what we've done. These are just some of the highlights of the things that we've done in the last budget to increase funding for county road maintenance. We've also, as the judge mentioned, added 2 new courts. We've put a new ambulance into service. These funding increases, while keeping the tax rate in check and actually reducing it for residents, have been able to have a great and positive impact on the residents in the Liberty Hill area. During my tenure, Williamson County has won awards for its excellence in budgeting practices. Fitch and Standard & Poor's rating services have once again reaffirmed Williamson County's AAA bond rating. There are only 8 other counties in the state and only 100 other counties in the nation that have that recognition for their good cash and budgeting practices. We have saved taxpayers over $125 million over the last few years by refinancing our debt and paying it off early. And on the topic of transportation, Williamson County, under my leadership, has invested over $90 million in construction and in constructing and improving roadways in the Liberty Hill area. In the last 3 years alone, we have done improvements and opened those at SH 29 and County Road 200. The improvements that are going on right now to County Road 200 will be finished in the next few weeks. We've constructed Sewer Junction Loop South, and beginning next year, widening will occur on Ronald Reagan Boulevard, as well as the middle section of the Liberty Hill bypass between 1869 and Baghdad. New employment opportunities have come to Williamson County, and Liberty Hill is not missed that also. You all, if you've lived here a while, you've seen our new restaurants and our new businesses that have come. They depend on, and the city and the county work together, they depend on us working together and having good and responsible fiscal policies in our governmental practices. We have done that. That's been recognized by the awards that the county has won, and that's great staff. That's not Cynthia doing the great budget. We have great staff that we've been able to hire and retain to do that. But it has been my privilege and my honor to serve. I am Cynthia Long, and I am asking for your vote to continue to accomplish great things for Liberty Hill and for this area. Thank you.
Next up, we have Angela Williams. I guess I should stand in front of this, right? I'm not much of a podium guy. My ADD kicks in and I have to move around. Angela Williams. Oh, sorry, good way.
Okay, yes. My name's Angela Williams. I'm running for Justice of the Peace in Precinct 2 of Williamson County. I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event this evening, and also all of you that joined us tonight and took time out of your evening. So for this first portion, I would like to just take a moment to talk about what the Justice of the Peace does. Talking to voters out in the community, I've noticed over 90% of the voters have no idea what the Justice of the Peace does. So I found it very informative to give a little informational about your Justice of the Peace. So your Justice of the Peace handles small claims, debt collection, and evictions with a $20,000 jurisdictional limit. Now, how can you use that? Well, let's say, for instance, maybe you had some landscape repairs or some auto repairs or maybe some home repairs, and the business or the individual does not hold up to their end of the deal. Well, are you stuck with a bill and services that were not provided? No, you have the small claims court, so you can always file a small claims in your Justice of the Peace in Precinct 2 if you live here in Liberty Hill. You represent yourself. It's called the People's Court, and it's the People's Court because it's the most accessible court to the people. You do not need to hire a lawyer or be out any lawyer expenses. You represent yourself and you prove up your case. So aside from those different types of cases, they also handle truancy court. So your students from Liberty Hill School District, as well as Leander School District, will be seen in the JP2 courtroom, as well as Class C misdemeanors. So those are punishable by up to possibly a $500 fine. And those are tickets that are written outside of your city limits. They will be filed in the Justice of the Peace. So also, your Justice of the Peace, they do inquests. So in Williamson County, we do not have a coroner. And so a Justice of the Peace is on call 1 week out of the month. And you have 4 Justices of the Peace in Williamson County. I'm running to represent Precinct 2, which is all of Liberty Hill, all of Leander, Williamson County, and also the north side of Cedar Park, as well as a small portion of Georgetown on 29. And so your 4 Justices of the Peace, they are on a 1-week rotation call performing inquests. And an inquest is when someone has passed away in the county. That Justice of the Peace is called by the officers on the scene, and there's one of 2 things that they are determining: whether this person will receive an autopsy or they will be released to the funeral home. And so in some cases, these inquests can be done remotely, but going into this position, I plan to go to every scene because I want to create those relationships with our law enforcement. I believe that's very important. And also just representing our community. We're elected to this position to serve the community, and I plan to do inquests with professionalism, compassion, and concern for all individuals that are involved in that situation. And also your Justice of the Peace does magistrate duties as well, and that just kind of sums up a little bit about what your Justice of the Peace does. So as I talked about, your Precinct 2 covers all of those areas. So I am from Leander. I moved to Leander in 1988. But I have family that lives in Liberty Hill, but I wanted to know the people in Liberty Hill. So the last year, when I decided to run for this position, I wanted to start spending time in all of these different areas to get to know the people. Your concerns in Liberty Hill are different than the concerns in Cedar Park. And although some of those issues the Justice of the Peace may not be able to handle, or it comes through the courtroom, but I believe an elected official should have a good understanding of their constituents and the entire area that they cover. And so for the last year, I've been joining Coffee Connections with your local women business owners. I attended Spirit Fest at Agape Barbecue. I got to know your senior citizens at the Over the Hill game. I helped Operation Liberty Hill and brought Blue Santa efforts during Christmas time. I've attended several of your churches, participated in your Christmas parade, attended chamber events. I helped coordinate a fentanyl awareness program that was heard right here on this stage right before school ended. And that's something that I'm passionate about also, is bringing fentanyl awareness to our communities. Your ages 18 to 45, that is the #1 cause of death right now, is fentanyl overdoses. And I know a mom that lives here in Liberty Hill that was on this panel, and she lost her son in Leander in March of 2021. So that's something I'm passionate about. I work with Officer Wolf, your SRO here at Liberty Hill, to bring that panel in and to educate the community in Liberty Hill. As well as I've witnessed offending juvenile cases from Liberty Hill students in the teen court program currently being held in the JP2 courtroom. I attended your Thrills on Wheels to benefit your project graduation, attended Market Days, attended Whimsy and Wonder, which is an awesome art festival, and also I helped facilitate a pregnancy resource center that is in your community here in Liberty Hill now, attended Liberty Hill Rodeo, and also was there for the land blessing for Operation Liberty Hill. Are we done? I wasn't even looking over there. Okay, in closing, my name's Angela Williams. Is it time? My name's Angela Williams. I'm running for Justice of the Peace in Precinct 2 to represent you in all of Liberty Hill. I am a small business owner, a wife, a mom, a grandmother. I'm more than a political party. I'm a community engager, and I'm ready to serve you on day one. And I'm endorsed by a lot of people. Okay. And I'm not a career politician, so if that...
How do you get it all into 5 minutes, right?
try.
All right, next up we should have Sarah Groff, if I'm correct, and I was good at doing, there you go.
It's hard to see her for real.
Right here.
No, it's hard to see her. She runs over something.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Thanks to the Chamber for having this event. My name is Sarah Groff. I have a 5th generation Texan. I've lived in Williamson County for 22 years. The last 20 have been in Cedar Park with my husband and our 2 children. My experience working in state and local government gives me an understanding of listening to different voices and issues while using the law as a backbone for making decisions. Serving on the Cedar Park Planning and Zoning Commission for the last 5 years, and 2 as chair, has given me experience in dealing with diverse groups of stakeholders, understanding complex issues, and applying city code to the problems before me. It's also provided me with the practical experience of running efficient and orderly government meetings. I currently work for State Representative John Busey, which has allowed me to serve my community and build relationships with other levels of government and community leaders. I run all district operations from constituent services to special programs and legislation. We currently run a food delivery program which has delivered over 90,000 pounds of food to seniors in Precinct 2 in 2.5 years. In this role, I have helped thousands of constituents navigate state agencies, connect them to local resources such as churches and nonprofits. I came into this position with no framework for operating a district office or any resources identified for either the office or constituents. And in my time, I have built a robust and active district office. And I will bring the same level of hard work, involvement, commitment, and efficiency to our JP courts. Before working for Representative Busey, I spent my time volunteering in our community and raising my children. I was a longtime hospice volunteer, volunteered at my kids' school, serving on several boards and committees, and I went back to school in 2015 and graduated with honors from the University of Texas with a degree in public health and sociology and a minor in government. My specific area of interest was actually on the opioid epidemic and harm and overdose reduction policies. I'm running for Justice of the Peace because I want to not only continue but also broaden my service to our community. This is a role that can truly impact someone's life, and we need judges who both understand the law and can administer it in a fair manner. I appreciate the connections this role has with other agencies in our community, and I'm a big believer in working together to make our community better for everyone. I have a proven track record of being able to develop strong working relationships with other agencies and elected officials, regardless of the letter behind their name come election time. I have endorsements from leaders in our communities from all across the political spectrum, and I'm ready to take on this role and fulfill the duties and responsibilities of this position. There are many ways that the JP courts can make a difference in the community. In Williamson County, I think one of the most important ways is by completing death inquests in a professional and timely manner. Because Williamson County doesn't have a medical examiner, the task falls on Justice of the Peace. Families are unable to file for any benefits without a final death certificate. The court needs to be able to process death inquests quickly and inform the grieving family of clear expectations and next steps. Another area where the court can play a significant role is in juvenile misdemeanor and truancy cases. We need to investigate and implement novel ways to deal with truancy that aren't just telling the student to attend school or fining the parents. Working closely with the school districts and counselors is paramount in dealing with truancy cases. We all know how vital finishing high school is to one's future, and we need to be able to address the issues that cause truancy. Concerning Class C misdemeanors, I would like to continue the teen court program started by Judge Stout, which allows minors to learn about the court system. I believe people should not have to interact with the court system without access to legal resources. The government should not have the upper hand when it comes to court. Decisions made in a JP court can have long-term ramifications, and people need to understand what they are entering into. Bringing free or low-cost legal resources to Williamson County is something that I will work on as a judge. In the meantime, I will ensure that all resources the court has available will be online in the office, available for all who might need it. Demystifying the judicial process for folks, regardless of age, is something I will strive to do because it benefits all to have an informed citizenry. To prepare for this role, I've studied all the Texas state code that pertains to JP courts. I've studied the JP handbooks and spent time in several of the JP courts in Williamson County, observing how the different JPs run their court and handle cases. I know that I am prepared to take on this role on day one. I really thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I hope I can earn your trust and also your vote. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Raul Camacho, Texas House of Representatives. Huh? Candidate, sorry, that's okay.
Good evening, Liberty Hill. You guys have an awesome football team, I'll tell you that. Whoop! Pretty proud of that, being a neighbor of you guys. Liberty Hill is my second home. I had taught firearms LTC classes out here in Liberty Hill at Best of the West. I was pretty proud of that. Did it for about five years. And so, again, Liberty Hill is my second home. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my background and so forth. My background is law enforcement. I come from a law enforcement background, graduated from the Winston County Sheriff's Department back in 2008. I'm so proud of those guys. I did campus police work at ACC. Thereafter that, I went with Lexington PD. I almost got promoted to be a detective, but my firearm training business took off where I was making more money on the weekends than I did full-time at the force. I have a special love for law enforcement. It's something that you'll never want to give up. The fellow officer over there probably understands what I'm saying. So I was one of the first Democrats to say that I do not support defunding the police. I believe that we can fund Black lives and fund the police. We need to work hand in hand. I also worked at the Red Cross. I was a deputy shelter manager at the Red Cross during Hurricane Sandy. Nobody wanted to volunteer because it's such a huge task. I also did a lot of humanitarian aid when there was a crisis at the border. Back in 2014 when all those children arrived at the border. We gathered a whole bunch of businesses and gathered some clothes and all kinds of donations for them to have a decent life here in Texas. So my background is really about public service. Since I was young, I've always helped the community, one way or another. In Leander, I'm on the Board of Appeals. I try to be fair and always try to do a win-win solution. And so I'm running for office to do the same here. I'm running as a Democrat. There's a lot of commonalities that we have with Republicans. Good example. If you guys are tired of high property taxes, I need your vote. If you guys are tired of high utility bills, I need your vote. If you're tired of unaffordable homes, especially for the new generation, they cannot afford to buy a new home these days, I need your vote. If you're tired of water restrictions and nobody has done nothing about it, I need your vote. If you're tired of the quarry companies popping up all over the Williamson County, I need your vote, because I'm tired of those guys. They wreck our roads, they pollute our air, they cause havoc with noises all over throughout the neighborhood. And guess who's paying that bill? We are. If you're tired of low wages, I need your vote. If you're tired that women's reproductive rights are being taken away, I need your vote. If you're tired of school shootings throughout the country, I need your vote. Because I'm sick and tired of it. I'm tired of the prayers, the inaction, and the excuses with the current administration here in our state. We can do better. What else? Another thing too, you know, I'm tired of like you guys, if you're a business owner, if you're tired of excessive fees just to start a business, good example, inventory taxes. You've already paid for those items in taxes and sales taxes and so forth. Why do you have to be charged for inventory taxes? Guys, I'm not a career politician, man, but I just, you know, I'm just a regular Joe, just like you and I, you know, just like you. And something made me step up to the podium and say, you know what, I'm gonna, you know, run for office because I'm tired of the BS. I know that we have some common ground, and I know that we can push forward. We need bold ideas, especially with this environmental issue that we're having with the water drought that we have currently. The current system that we have now has made Texas worse, not better. So my campaign slogan is, Texans deserve better. I ask you to please look at my website at www.camacho4texas, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Terry Wilson couldn't be here tonight, and we'll let you go ahead and explain that for me, because you know way more than I do. But go ahead, Jeff is going to go ahead and present for Terry. Go ahead.
Thank you all very much for allowing me to present for Terry. I'm Jeff Frazier. I'm Colonel Wilson's Chief of Staff, and he will always correct you when you call him, if anyone calls him representative. It's either Terry directly or Colonel he loves, but that's what people insist on giving him a title. He'll take the one here and there. Being in the state legislature is an exercise in priorities. We have 140 days every 2 years. The election happens in November, second Tuesday in January, we go into session. And we have 140 days to pass all the laws that we're going to get for the next 2 years and to set a state budget for 30 million people for 2 years. And we really don't even have 140. The first 60 of those days are set aside for governor's emergency priority items and for organizing committees, getting the new members settled in that are freshmen, getting them settled into their positions, getting things organized. And then on day 60, that's when we start actually working on legislation, when stuff starts moving through committees. So we have 80 days, just over 2 months to pass everything, and so you have to be focused, you have to know what your priorities are, and go for them. For Colonel Wilson, the priorities were very clear from the very beginning. Vocational education is seriously lacking in this state. We put way too much emphasis that every kid needs to go to college, that is the only path for folks. And what we have now is folks who have too many student loans, and we have a population that does not have the skill set, and we have jobs in plumbing, we have jobs in need for electricians, for plumbers, for all sorts of technical positions that we are dying to get, that businesses are asking us for, that industry is clamoring for, but we don't have. A great quote, if you look up from Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, they asked him, why do you do so much business in China? And he said, it's not because it's cheaper. I mean, kinda is cheaper, but not really. The real reason is, if I was to gather every person in this city where we are now who can do this type of work, who has the tooling skills and the engineering skills to build these phones, to build these products, to do this work, I can maybe get 500, 600. If I go to China, I can fill a stadium because they're training people to do this stuff and they know how to do it. That's a threat to our national security because in the back half of his time, his 32 years in the military, Colonel Wilson worked in research, development, and manufacturing for military products and for getting things into the military system. And one of the things that was key that showed up over and over again for him in that process was companies would come in, all the biggest companies you can imagine, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, and none of them could produce any of the products domestically. They all had to go out and get foreign partners to come in. And when you have a foreign partner come in, you're handing them our technology, and they can just copy it. They can sell it to whoever, they can do whatever to it, and that is a massive national security risk, which is why you're seeing companies wanting to come back into the US and folks now wanting to build things here. But more than just the economic need, students, it is our duty as a state to ensure public education for every student, to be able to either get a job right out of college, right out of high school, or go on to college or further training if they want. That's in our Constitution. That is the duty of the state legislature. And if you wonder why your property taxes are so high, the county does a portion of them, the small districts just do a portion of them. The biggest chunk, 50 to 60%, is paying for public education because the state legislature over the last 80 years has not done its job to prioritize putting money towards increasing the basic allotment and paying for education from the state level, which is where it's supposed to come from. He supported HB 90 in the last legislative session, and plans to do so again, bringing it forward this time to dedicate 90% of surplus state revenue over what we spent in the previous session to buying down M&O property taxes from school districts until it hits zero. And then everyone gets those benefits that big businesses can sometimes get from getting your M&O cut out of your property taxes. Every homeowner, every business owner will be free from paying M&O property taxes because it's the state's responsibility, and we're going to make sure that the state gets back to its priorities. And that is what has been set for y'all, and that is what Colonel Wilson wants to do. So, thank you very much.
All right, for the question section, I need to pull this piece back. So I can see everything on the video. All right, as a reminder, I'm going to go ahead and I'll head over here. I'll go ahead and ask the questions that were submitted online. We are recording this as well, and we'll be posting that online as well. We are going to have the challengers go first, answer the questions, and then, incumbents, we're going to have the challengers go first, incumbents go second, and then challengers, if there's something incumbent says that you want to address, raise your hand, let me know. I'll make sure we get you a minute there at the end. Go ahead and address and straighten out anything that you want to straighten out. All right. So give me just a second to get over here and I'll do it. All right, our first question is for everyone. So I said we just start here with Bridget and we'll go left to right because that's the way we read papers, right? So it makes it easy. All right, first up says, what have you done to prepare for the job? It should be on. Is it not on?
Yeah, it is not. No, I probably don't need it.
Just
Thank you. Thank you. I have lived a life of selfless leadership. That is what the county needs. That's what the county needs at the commissioner's level. The things that I have done to prepare for this job involve going to West Point, serving 24 years in the Army, serving with the Corps of Engineers, monitoring billion-dollar projects, being involved as a project manager, helping to build offshore drilling rigs, and working in the community also. I've been involved with Safe Alliance. I'm one of the founding members of the Women of Hope. I work with Reveal Ministries, and I'm a big advocate of voter rights. So my involvement in the community has been deep, and the leadership that I will bring to this position, I have been fostering in my life essentially from day one. Thank you.
Okay, so the things that I have done for the last year to prepare for this position is I have attended the Justice of the Peace Court for 1 year solid. That started in August of 2021 and went continuous until August of 2022. Just recently, I quit attending because I am on the ground talking to voters now. So sitting in that courtroom, I've seen that I have a small business background, and my small business background gives me a great insight into processing those cases, especially the small claims that come through the courtroom. And so, aside from that, also I became a certified mentor. I am a mom of 6 children, but I have never really mentored any students outside of my home besides at my church. So I wanted to become a certified mentor to have that professional training. So I recently became a certified mentor, as well as not having a law enforcement background. I wanted to have a better understanding of our agencies. So I attended the Leander Citizens Police Academy and graduated from that. I do have your law enforcement endorsements, the Williamson County Deputies Association, the Leander Law Enforcement Association, the Cedar Park Police Association, as well as Constable Jeff Anderson. So they have entrusted this campaign, and we have sat in the same candidate endorsement forums, and I have received their endorsement. Aside from that, I have also attended teen court that is in Judge Stout's courtroom currently, and I've watched the process of that. And, well, I think I've just been listening to the voters as well out in the community, understanding the concerns, and that is how I've prepared. Angela Williams for Justice of the Peace, ready to serve on day one. Thank you.
Well, I started with the Explorer program back in high school. We were one of the first Explorer programs in Texas. So public service again comes, that's just part of my DNA. That's who I am. So, law enforcement again, been doing that for quite a while. Being involved with seniors is a big subject for me. Having a fellow friend over here of mine that used to work for me when I had a company helping seniors. And so, being involved with the city, working, not working, but just being part of the Board of Appeals and participating in all these type of events at our city. I'm also, always engaged whenever there's a crisis. I'll make the time to go out there and give a hand to those that are less fortunate. I study what's been happening with our state, with our current legislators. It's a mess. And I think it's fair to say that we need change. And, we need bold new ideas. And so that's who I am. I'm just a service provider, and I'll stand for what's right. It doesn't matter if it offends my own party, but if it's the right thing to do for the entire state, I'll do it. And I think it takes guts to do this, and integrity, and honesty, and just be level with the people. And that's who you're going to get when if I get elected. Thank you.
Again, I'm Cynthia Long, and I have the privilege of serving as your county commissioner, but prior to my service as county commissioner, I had a career in information technology. I worked for 10 years for the state of Texas in various IT management roles, and then started my own IT consulting company that took me to projects both in the United States as well as internationally in Central and South America and Europe, running high-level multi-million-dollar IT projects. In addition to that, I served for many years on the YMCA board and actually helped start the YMCA in the Cedar Park area. I've served on the hospital board for Round Rock Hospital, as well as currently serve on the Cedar Park Medical Center board. I was elected twice to Cedar Park City Council and learned governing at those early days in Cedar Park. Also served on the Planning Commission. But there's nothing that can replace on-the-job training. And I have done that in my time as commissioner, and the opportunities that we have had to mix my professional background and leadership skills of project management and information technology. There's nothing that happens anymore without computers and technology, and my background in that has been very important on the Commissioners Court and in the county as we have automated almost every function of county government. But I have been involved in the community, involved in my church. I've led ministry at my church, both from all the way from kids up to adults and everybody in between, and have been engaged in my neighborhood. And it continues to be a on-the-job learning process. If we stop learning, we cease to grow. And I'm very thankful for the on-the-job experience that I've had, as well as my professional background that has prepared me for this job. Thank you.
Good, Bill. Now, you should have one on, yeah.
So the question was, what have I done to prepare for this job? Well, I've been your county judge for the last 1,360 days. I've been the county judge for the last 3 years, 8 months, and 21 days. And what I've done during that time is I've led our community and our county through the worst global pandemic that our community's ever faced. In the last 3 years, 8 months, and 21 days, I've led our community through multiple tornadoes that were devastating to the communities that they've affected. What I've done in the last 3 years, 8 months, and 21 days, I've led when we had a blizzard like we have never seen before. In the last 3 years, 8 months, and 21 days, I found myself the last few months being out at multiple fires. You see, the county judge is the head of emergency management. And what I've done to prepare for this job was, prior to this, I served as Justice of the Peace for 6 years. And prior to that, I served as a youth minister and a pastor for 30 years of service. There are many things that I get to do as county judge that I love, but leading during disasters is one piece of the puzzle that's really important. One of the greatest accomplishments for me personally during the global pandemic was the ongoing conversation with Dell Children's Hospital. And they were looking for a place to land and to add their newest expansion. And what I learned during the global pandemic,
The life that he led preparing for that, I will say, the most important thing is his term in military service of 32 years, but there's a specific part of that, not just any service, but the fact that he got to the point of when you're in the Army, and they have to correct this now, but you're not anything else, you are Army green the whole time. Everyone is the same, and everyone gets treated equally, and you should be thinking about everyone and serving the people that you have and the charge that you are given. And that mission focus, and that focus on serving the entire people that you're responsible for, is that key thing that he brought with him into this position. Because I'll tell you, the moment that really sunk in for me with him was sitting down with a group of people, and they said, hey, you really need to listen to us about this because we're a big group of people and we all vote. And just stopped this conversation dead and said, look, he was a representative at the time, and so he said, look, I appreciate that you're voters, but the important thing is when you're in the office, it's about serving the constituents. If it's about the voters and you're in office, it's about you keeping your power. When it's about the constituents, you do the best job you can, you serve the constituents, every one of them, as best you can, you listen to everybody's problems, you do what you can to help them, and then they make their decision. And that especially means that if there are people out there that aren't voters, we desperately need to find out what they have to say because they don't feel like their voices mattered at all. And we have a huge group of people that we aren't serving because we don't know what they're telling us to say or do or what they need. And that is the focus that he's brought to this job and the stuff that prepared him for this that I have seen as his chief. that has led me to stay here as long as I have. Because working for someone who is focused on serving the people first, and is not, and doesn't care what it does to him, that's what I want to see.
I told you a little bit about my immediate background in my intro, which is what I've been doing to prepare for that. But if you go way back, I started my career in tech, worked for Microsoft as a project manager, and I handled multi-million-dollar tech projects. And one of the vital things that the Justice of the Peace has to do is handle the budget for the office. So I've had experience doing that. I was able to bring projects in on time and oftentimes under budget with good staffing, and surrounding myself with people that I trust to do their job, not micromanaging, and people that trusted me to be the umbrella, over them when they needed it. The other things that I've done throughout my time is when I left project management, I went to work as a corporate trainer. Being a corporate trainer, you really learn communication skills, and you learn how to break things down in a way that people that have no experience with what you're talking about can understand. So many people that come into the Justice of the Peace Court, they've never been in a courtroom. They are not lawyers. They are representing themselves. They hear words like pro se and prove up your case, and all of that is legal jargon that makes no sense to them. So being able to communicate effectively and efficiently with the people in the courtroom with empathy and compassion, I think is something that, are skills that I have and that I have cultivated throughout my career, also raising my children, and something that I use every day now in my job of dealing with our House constituents.
All right, thank you. Our first position, specific question, is going to be for County Judge. So, tell us one Liberty Hill tradition that you believe is special and should continue.
Well, I'm glad I get to go first because I can list 2 or 3, right? And I don't know, you're talking about a tradition, right? So, first of all,
Well, I'm not talking. Whoever submitted it online is talking about
yeah, great question. You can call it what you want, but pie at Dahlia's with a cup of coffee outside is an amazing tradition, right? Is that a tradition? Can we call that a tradition?
Yeah.
Number 2, and I've only been there a couple of times, but I love the Christmas parade at night. It's just kind of majestic and magical, and a few years ago I had the privilege of emceeing that. So that's a couple of traditions that I love.
All right, we're going to hop over to the Texas House of Representatives. So, Raul, what is your stance on abortion and women's rights? I gave you the hard one. It was a really rough segue, I know.
Well, this is one I want to speak with confidence here. I have always been open about this. I believe that no man, no court, no corporation, no religion has any right to tell a woman to do with her reproductive rights. It's none of their business. We get these people saying, well, it's God this and the Bible that and all that. Not everybody has the same faith. It doesn't make them bad people, or immoral people. It's just that they have a different belief, and maybe they have different circumstances. I don't believe that Governor Abbott should tell, or let's say a family member should ask permission to Governor Abbott if the 13-year-old daughter, who probably got raped by a pedophile and got pregnant, to get his permission to see if she can get an abortion. It is none of his goddamn business. And I truly support that every woman has her own right to decide what she wants to do with her reproductive rights. That's where I stand.
Yeah, it's a tough issue. And Colonel Wilson's status, or he is unapologetically pro-life on this question. And one of the main things that we consider in this is that key question almost in triage of you try to save the most life that you can with what we have. And when you look at some of when you look at the sort of contrast in the different levels of position here, we have folks are saying, are we going to have this this available all the way up to birth, after, right up until the moment of birth, right up until third trimester, first trimester. The clear line that was set by the legislature in the last session regarding that this is more than sufficient for where we are, but it is a solid thing to say where we were going to protect life at every stage where we can, and that includes at the beginning and to the end, right? To say we want folks to be healthy from conception to through to the end of life, no matter what it takes. And so, we are that is his position, and that's the end of that.
Raul told me you wanted to have your minute.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just because we're pro-choice doesn't mean that we're not pro-life. What bothers me is when I hear the folks on the other side that they said they're pro-life, is that why haven't they done anything when it comes to the mortality rate that we have here in Texas? We have the highest mortality death rate, but nothing has been done to help these mothers. What about these foster kids? We have the second heaviest foster kids in our state, and nobody has done anything about it. What about these kids who are hungry? We have the most poverty child state in the union, but every time we want to give some funding to them or whatever, it's always been denied. So how can we say that you're pro-life and deny who's living currently in our state?
All right. Next is for county commissioners, so we'll start with Bridget. Will River Ranch County Park be free for county residents since we pay for it in our taxes already?
Yes.
We'll have to bet.
The park system within the county is a little bit lacking. I have spoken with Russell Fishback at length about some of the challenges he's facing within the Parks and Rec system within the county and how the funding is handled and not handled. He has repeatedly asked for what he calls a block budget, where he then has the discretion to put the money to the parks and the things that he wants. And instead, the county requires him to do a by-line budget. So every time he wants to spend $10 here instead of there, it has to go before the court, and it complicates and truly gets the decisions that he needs to make for our county locked up in a bureaucracy. The leadership that I'm going to bring to the court is going to eliminate that sort of stuff and allow the department heads, such as Russell, to do the job he's trained and hired to do, and not just spend every day in court and every week preparing the massive paperwork that's going to have to go to court for him to move $100 from here to there. And yeah, let's get River Ranch open and free. Thank you.
All right. Cynthia? So I think they told me that microphone should be working now, if you wanted to test it.
So River Ranch Park will be a gem of our park system. It'll be over 1,300 acres. What we've tried to do with that particular park is not everybody in the county is going to use it. There will be a nominal fee of a couple of dollars. You can also buy a park pass if you want to do that. But the county, a number of years ago, put together a master parks plan in conjunction with the cities and lots of public input. And the decision at that point in time was that the county would focus on bigger, larger parks, kind of state park feel kinds of parks. And to that end, there was also sentiment at the time that said, not every citizen should have to pay for it if they don't use it. And so it's a user-based entrance fee, a very minimal $2 fee to get in. And just the comment on the budgeting, state law requires counties to budget differently. We do that by line item. We don't get to break state law just because it would definitely be more convenient. I think that would certainly help folks, but we also have to follow the law when we do our budgeting.
Go ahead, you got one.
Just a quick feedback or follow-up on that. The Expo Center does charge fees for large events, and that would more than cover the cost of the parks that are necessary. Russell is a strong supporter of no fees there, and whether they're $1, $10, or $100, it's a matter of principle that that park should be free and there should not be an admission charge, and I fully support that.
All right. Next up, we have for JP. Starting with Angela. And you did kind of hit on this earlier, but can you describe the actual responsibilities of a JP? I know I'm getting a little redundant on you.
That's okay. So the responsibilities of the Justice of the Peace are small claims, debt collection, evictions with a $20,000 jurisdictional limit. Also truancy court and Class C misdemeanors punishable by fine, as well as administrative hearings and magistrate duties, as well as performing inquests.
And I think probably so it clarifies, like I think what, and both of you speak to this, is like, what impact does that have on, whoever's at home, right? So like if you have the wrong person in there or whatever, like I guess what would be the negative, right? If you had the wrong person there, not necessarily your opponent, but like just,
Could you clarify, please?
So I'm trying to establish an impact to those things for, you talk about like a young family at home, trying to deliver some relevance to them and let them see what it does, what the JP does. So if you have somebody making the wrong decisions as a JP, how does that affect them? If you have them making the right decisions, how does that affect them? Is that better? I did a great job on the first one, hopefully it's better there.
So, sitting in the courtroom and watching some of these juveniles that come through with those Class C misdemeanors, I notice, something that I want to make sure that I do is not necessarily give them a fine, make them pay a fine, because in most cases, their parents are gonna pay that fine. And I want the students that have fell into difficult situations to learn a valuable lesson and have hope that although, this circumstance they're in is not the best, but make sure that we have proactive programs for our juveniles, that they can be court ordered to these programs, that they learn something and they can take away with something valuable, a valuable lesson, and not necessarily a fine that has been paid by their parents. So that is something that I will do in the courtroom, is make sure that our students, our juveniles, that they are not being fined for their difficult situations, but they're learning a lesson and know that they're gonna have a successful, hopeful future.
And, my follow-up added about a little over a minute to her time, so, in all fairness, I want to make sure I go ahead and add that time to yours if you need it, so you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. All that Angela said in regards to the duties are correct. She did leave one off. The Justice of the Peace may also perform weddings, and that is something that I plan to do. I will restore the court to its full constitutional authority, which it is currently not in JP2, and I will also allow people to exercise their constitutional rights to marry. And then the second part of the question was, why do you want, what does a good quality judge look like? So a Justice of the Peace could be a very much a rubber stamp position. Most of what we do is already outlined in law. Evictions have a process. If you go through the process, the eviction happens. If somebody misses a step of the process, then they have to start the process over again. So there's a lot of law that dictates how the cases that come into the court, how they need to be processed. But there's a lot of room for innovation, a lot of room for growth, and there's a lot of room to look at situations and take kind of a novel approach. For instance, diversion programs for Class C misdemeanors. You know, not everything needs to be, even though there is the option of fining them, you can also create diversion programs. If somebody comes in and, you know, has a Class C misdemeanor that has something to do with money management, you know, you can send them through a finance course, and JP3 actually has done some amazing things with some of their programs to get people the education that they need to prevent them from coming back before the court. And so that's something that I would really look into, and I think it's something that's necessary, and it's really builds the community versus just rubber stamping everybody that comes through.
Right. The next question was submitted underneath county judge. I think it's probably going to apply to county commissioner as well. So we'll go ahead and start with county judge, but then I think both of our folks in county commissioner should probably respond as well. So are you going to do something about the lack of infrastructure causing 29 and 1869 traffic to be insane every morning and evening?
The answer is yes.
They probably want to know what, I'm guessing.
Well, let me
They
say
asked a yes or no, but I'm guessing.
Well, in part, let me say this. What I've learned since I've been county judge is there are federal roads and there are state roads. We have some jurisdiction and authority to work collaboratively with the state, but the truth is on state highways, it comes from state funding. And unless there's state funding available, we don't have the ability to move forward on those projects. I do want to say this though. Commissioner Long, who serves as the chair of Campo, has done a great job in bringing financial resources back to Williamson County to do some state, federal, and local work collaboratively. It's pretty amazing when you look at what Williamson County's been able to leverage through our partnerships with our friends at the state and the federal level, and it's going to be leadership like that that needs to continue. 29 is always going to be a challenge as long as we continue to grow. We're continually having conversations with the state and the state leadership, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. And I didn't hear, you said 2 roads. I'll tell you what, I'll stop there and I'll let the commissioner speak to the other one.
Okay. So Bridget, you want me to reread that?
No, I got it.
Okay.
So traffic and roads within the county, particularly here in Precinct 2 in Liberty Hill, are a continuing challenge. And growth is going to happen, and growth is a good thing, and growth is happening. But the master plan for roads within this district is not in place. And it needed to have been here, and it needs to help guide the growth in a graceful manner. The idea that roads are being plotted over ranchers' homes, wells, private landowner rights are being absolutely violated. With regards to 29 and 1869, the funds are available, and so what we need to do is not a bunch of developers with rulers and magic markers just drawing convenient lines, building roads. We need to hear from the residents. You are the people that will benefit, and if we make the wrong decisions, be punished by when and how roads are upgraded, where roads are plotted and sited, and how they are constructed. So you are correct, that is a long-standing problem that needs to be handled fundamentally differently with a leadership team that talks to the residents and fulfills the needs of the people that are here.
So I'll address that specific intersection, but then also talk about kind of the bigger picture. 1869 obviously is a state road as well as 29. There will be relief coming to that intersection because 13 years ago, the county worked with the city to plan a bypass around Liberty Hill. The middle section of that bypass the engineering is being completed, and it will be constructed starting either later this year or first part of next year. When that is finished, the intersection that you just mentioned, there will be relief at that intersection because most of the through traffic coming from Bertram and other places will be able to take that bypass around the city. And that was done with long-term planning in conjunction with the city as well as the state to address that particular area. But in addition to that, the county, under my leadership, has worked with the state of Texas to install traffic lights at 1869 and 183, as well as 183 and 3405. In addition, the center turn lane that is essential for kiddos getting in and out of the school as well as parents and teachers. That was done with my leadership, working with the state of Texas to add that center turn lane because it was essential. That was what the citizens were telling us at that time, is the high school was about to open and there was no center turn lane there. And so I worked along with TxDOT as well as the city and took the lead on that project because it was a very critical safety project for this community.
Can I chime back in?
Yep, go ahead, you got one, go ahead.
Ready?
Go.
Yeah, I would beg to differ on whether the community was really involved in the decision, that any of these decisions were made in conjunction. I have spoken in depth with your city council and with members of the community. They were not consulted, and to the extent that they were, their input was ignored. And they're not happy, and these roads are not safe, and this is not what the city of Liberty Hill wants, has asked for, and has repeatedly told Commissioner's Court it is not what they want. So it has not happened in conjunction with you, and you know that.
Daniel, I need one more second to respond to that. The city council was a different city council in 2008 and 2009 when the bypass was planned, and there's been significant input. There's a lot of faces that have changed in this community, and road projects take a very long time to plan. If any of you have driven Ronald Reagan to get here, that road project, the planning for that started before 2000. And it got built over time. It takes time to do these things, and the relationship that the county has with TxDOT as well as the city is critically important to get these state roads, because the state roads are the choke points in the city. And without that relationship and being able to work with TxDOT to bring improvements, it just doesn't happen, because it's got to be a partnership.
All right. Next up, this is listed underneath Justice of the Peace, but I think it's really probably pertinent to all of our challengers. So we'll start with the challengers, and I would like the incumbents to do a follow-up onto it. Now let's go ahead and start with our JP challenger. What will you do? What will you do that continues your predecessor's efforts to bring together the community? What would you do differently?
Can we clarify who's the challenger? Because we're neither one
Oh,
of us are the incumbent.
I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm all sideways.
Maybe for fairness, we can start on the other side.
We can start over there because I started here before. I apologize. Go ahead. Sarah, go ahead.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So, what will you do? What will you do that continues your predecessor's efforts to bring together the community? What would you do differently?
Some of the programs that Judge Stout, who's retiring, has started, like the Teen Court, are amazing programs. One of the things that I was raised to believe is that democracy is a participation sport. And the earlier you can learn about government and how it impacts your life, the more involved you can be, and the better you can just make your community all around. So I think having programs like that where children can come in and see what we do and kind of, like I said earlier, demystify government is just, it's paramount into turning our children into voters in the future, because everybody that can vote should vote, and turning our, into just responsible citizens. So that's certainly a program that she started that I think has built community that I would continue. Things that I would do differently is I would, like I said earlier, I would restore the right to perform weddings in the court. which I think just makes people feel welcomed in the court. You know, if your constitutional rights are being denied to you, how welcome do you feel when you're coming up, you know, for a case if you're an LGBTQ person? How welcome do you feel as an LGBTQ youth in a courtroom where you know a judge doesn't believe that your sexuality is valid? And, you know, how do you feel that your truancy is going to be treated in a respectful way? So I think, you know, making people aware that personal biases need to be left at the door or as soon as you put that robe on is vitally important. And then just creating some more programs like JP3 has done, some of the financial awareness programs, and also just having open houses, informing people of what a JP does, because Angela is so right. When you're out talking to voters, people are like, what? What do you do? What is this court? So I think having some town hall events where people can come in and find out more information about the court are certainly things that I would encourage.
Okay, so programs I would like to continue is the Teen Court program that's in partnership with the YMCA. Also, the mentor programs that are run from JP Court 2. There is a partnership with Catalyst Collective. It's a local, it's called the Purpose Project, and it's a local mentorship organization. And so that is where I have received my certification in mentoring. So I would like to continue the Catalyst Collective mentorship program, as well as there is in-house mentoring within the Justice of the Peace as well. So there's two different types of mentor programs. I would like to continue mentoring our youth. As I stated earlier, you know, our juveniles, our students, our kids, and our community, we are the front line at the Justice of the Peace. It's the lowest legal jurisdiction closest to the people. And I want to make an impact with our youth to make sure that we give them a proactive program going forward. Also, Jail to Jobs is partnered with the JP2 court, and they offer an anger management program. And so there's different programs that are currently being used within JP2, and it's a tailored, you know, type of proactive program, so that when you have a student or a juvenile that comes through with an anger issue, or they come through with a tobacco issue or a vaping issue, there is also tobacco and vaping classes. So that's something that I want to continue, is to bring awareness to the vaping and tobacco issue, and just, you know, continuing those programs tailored to each situation and each student that comes through that court. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You know, our students are dealing with so many different issues. And something that I want to bring to the court, as I stated earlier, is fentanyl awareness. This is something that I'm passionate about. I've met with mothers that have lost their children to fentanyl poisoning, and we need more awareness in our community. And we're seeing that finally, you know, at a national level and at a state level, there is more awareness that's coming, but that's something that I'm passionate about, is having a fentanyl program for those juveniles that come through with a Class C misdemeanor of drug paraphernalia. So that's something important. One other thing that I would like to implement is, I noticed sitting in the courtroom, especially during truancy cases, you had a lot of non-English speaking parents. And I actually mentored a student that the parent did not speak English. And I felt like there was a communication breakdown. You know, I met with this student for 6 months, and she spoke English, but her mom did not speak English. And so I think it's very vital and very important that we are communicating with those parents and finding a way that we're able to have a communication line. And, you know, within the JP court, there is the school administrator that is bilingual, and they are referencing back to the parent what is going on in the court process. But outside of that, I want to explore different ways to stay connected and make sure that those parents understand. I know with my own children, if I know that they need to do something, I'm going to stay on top of them. You need to do this, you need to do this and that. And if the parents don't know what needs to be done, you know, it's hard to blame the situation. So I would like to explore ways to make sure our parents are aware of what their students need to do.
So I'd like to go ahead and take that over to the Texas House, the same question. I'll go ahead and repeat it here. Let's see. What will you do? It continues your predecessor's efforts to bring bring together the community, what would you do differently? Roll.
Being more transparent is one thing. I think it's very important. You know, we're very divided right now as a nation, and I think you know we have more in common than disagreement. So transparency is number one. You know, the other thing too is I believe that we need to treat everybody fairly. You know, you can't say that that you pray to God and treat people down at the border like garbage. You just can't do that. You know, it's unchristian. And so I feel that you know, making sure that everyone's treated equally. We know that that's not been happening here in Texas with the LGBTQ community. We know that women are not being treated fairly. We know that African Americans are not being treated fairly. I'm half Hispanic. I've been in so many situations where I was not treated fairly. Good example, several years ago, before the new police chief took over, I applied with Liberty Hill Police Department. There was this panel of about 7 Anglo officers. I was the only Hispanic in the room. And that previous chief there, I forgot his name, I never forget. The first thing that comes out of his mouth is that there won't be no promotions. And I'm the only Hispanic in that room. So how do you think I felt about that? How can you not have any promotions if Liberty Hill's growing? How can you not have any promotions while there might be other officers that might be leaving the department? I felt discriminated right there and then because I was Hispanic. So I really feel that transparency and treating people equally is going to be something we're working hard. The Asian community reached out to me as well, and they're saying, well, you know, why are we being treated harshly with COVID-19? They call it the China virus. You know, why are they being attacked? It's just insane how we treat people. I tell people, look yourself in the mirror before you call yourself a Christian. And treat everybody fairly the way you want to be treated. And so that's what I would do differently. And to continue the legacy of Mr. Wilson, you know, all I can say is that the only thing I can remember is that you know, he tried to fight these quarries, to have a little bit more strong regulation with the quarries here in our county. I'll be doing the same thing because I just heard that you guys were trying to get hit by a quarry plant here in Liberty Hill. I'm totally against those guys right now because they don't follow the rules. And so that's something I'll carry over with his legacy.
So we are going into a new redistricting in this next legislative session. So as you know, like the new districts were drawn up in this last time, in this last session, and when the representatives take office next year, they will be representing different areas than those districts represented before. And Williamson County has grown so much over the last 10 years that it went from having 2 districts and a tiny bit of a 3rd district that then grabbed Milam and Burnett counties as well, to almost having 4 districts in 10 years. That is the 2nd fastest growing county in the country, only behind Hayes County, which is also in the Austin area in south of Dripping Springs. And so when you're talking about bringing the community together, the key to the new version of HD 20 of House District 20, where Colonel Wilson represents now, about half of that will remain in the new district, and the portions of southern Liberty Hill going down into Leander and Cedar Park are coming into the district, and Burnett and Milam counties are going off into HD 19 and 17. And when it comes to bringing the community together, maintaining a continuity of the constituent services is the most important thing for us. And I will say that those 18 months between legislative sessions, a lot of that work is getting ready for session, getting bills ready, but the vast majority of what we do is in the constituent services. And folks calling us to say, no matter who you are or what you need, folks have come to us from things from people needing, people at text tag won't call me back, right? There's this massive red tape bureaucracy that is the state. And sometimes people can't find their way through it because it's a maze, and they will take a state rep's phone call. They will take a state rep's office's phone call, and then we say, hey, give these people a call back. They do. We spent a big portion of the time during the pandemic with our whole staff just helping people get through to the Texas Workforce Commission. That was probably 6 months of our lives there, was just acting as a release valve to help people. I've been in line for 6 hours on the phone. I can't talk to anybody. No one will call me back. The system's broken because the system's still from 1991 and it operates on computers that you would have thrown away 3 times ago, right? But you know, we worked with the Workforce Commission, government relations folks. We made sure that every constituent that we talked to got what they needed. And that's what we want to continue with, and to make sure that every person, just today, we had someone call our office from Milam County who was in desperate need. They'd been evicted, they didn't have anywhere to go. There's no state program for that, for their specific situation. And if there was, the amount of time that it takes to go through any sort of government bureaucracy is going to take too long. We connected them with local churches and made something happen, and that's what we plan to see happen. To continue bringing into this new section of the district.
Sir, can I respond?
Go ahead. Yep, you're ready, go ahead.
We all know that this redistricting is unfair. Who's gonna, you can't kid yourselves on that. It's only benefit for the party that's in charge right now. It's not benefiting you, the minorities in here. There's no voice for them. So let's just, don't say any BS. A lot of minorities over here don't have a voice. Look what happened to the seniors that have voting restrictions now. Look at all these other folks over here that they have no representation because of the way the redistricting is done. This is not fair and balanced. I think people need to wake up and understand that.
All right, I have 2 more questions. The first one is going to go to County Commissioner, and then the final one will go to the County Judge spot and to the Texas House of Rep. So, County Commissioner spot, this is kind of a long one. I'm going to read it verbatim. I didn't want to be, held guilty of censoring anything, so I'll read it verbatim. It says, this is a question to everybody as it concerns everybody. At what point do city and county officials look around and decide to put a moratorium on growth? It appears one of the most pressing issues is water. Why do we keep allowing high-density housing developments to go in while at the same time asking residents to cut back on their water usage? We know this is just a recipe for this problem to be magnified. We can take a page out of the Las Vegas history book. It has been run by developers since its inception, and now they are facing the question they should have asked years ago regarding water. We don't have to follow in their footsteps, do we? You want me to start with the first part of it? Want to read the first part of it, or are we okay?
I got it.
Okay. Reggie, go ahead.
Well, whoever asked that question, I want to thank them. I feel like that was a plant for me. I already talked about the Groundwater Conservation District and that being one of the largest existential threats to Liberty Hill, Precinct 2, and Williamson County, and perhaps even Central Texas. And you're absolutely right. We need to establish a groundwater conservation district. We need to establish controls for surface water. We need to get with TCEQ to ensure that pollution standards are met. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm a little bit tired of hearing people say, that's not my job, that's not within my jurisdiction. As an elected official, as a senior elected official within this county, everything is my job. I will advocate, I will represent, I will stand on desks of people who actually make the decisions. I will answer the phone, I will return your calls, I will absolutely ensure that we resolve this water issue. I know I've made it quite clear that one of the very first things I'm going to do as your commissioner is to get with Clearwater and Bell County and start the process for water protection rights district within Williamson County. So, thank you.
Thank you. So, you want me to reread it? It's a long one.
I think the summary is, why don't we put a moratorium on growth, and with more building allowed, why is more building being allowed when other current residents are having to cut back?
I would concur, that sounds accurate.
Sort of the summary. So first of all, water, I heard the saying a long time ago that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. And we all know that without adequate water supplies, a city will cease to exist. And that water comes from surface water, it comes from groundwater. One of the things that we have done at the county just recently is taken the vast majority of the federal ARPA funds and allocated those to cities and to mud districts for water-related projects. And $3.5 million of that is coming to Liberty Hill to rework some of the existing infrastructure in downtown to replace old and aging water lines. An additional grant that was given of that federal dollars to the BCRUA, the Russian Regional Utility Authority, will impact Liberty Hill, because Liberty Hill gets some of its water from Leander. That's why right now the citizens that are on that Liberty Hill water supply are at stage 4 water restrictions because of the repairs that are happening. So it's a very interconnected system, and we have been working across the county. One of the things that Round Rock and Georgetown are doing is working together to bring water from the Brazos River Authority over further to the west, and that's addressing some of the surface water issues. With regard to groundwater districts, there are some that are run really well, and there are some that are not run so well. And as we explore that opportunity for Western Williamson County, we need to learn from the ones that do it well and the ones that have not done it so well. But we also have to do that with regard to the individuals that get water from the aquifer, as well as those people that get surface water. They're largely the folks in the municipal, Cedar Park, Leander, Liberty Hill residents that get that from. So we have to pay attention. But with regard to the moratorium on growth, with regard to private property rights, people have invested in those properties, and under state law, they have a right to do what they want to do, as long as it fits within the current guidelines, whether it be the subdivision rules of the city or the county. But at the end of the day, even at the county level, they have to prove, if it's a new subdivision, they have to prove they have sufficient water supplies through geological testing and things like that. And if it's at the city level, the city has to have water to sell. If they don't, they can't.
Yeah. 1 minute, go ahead.
I promise, I'll be fast.
No, you're good.
So, but yes, Cynthia, I agree with you on the moratorium for building, that the county has very little that they can do to affect that. What they can do, though, is to protect those water rights so that when developers come and try to build in an area, that the water will in fact be there. Not there now, but there for the future. And as for the money that the court is giving out to the county, to the cities, listen to what she said. They're repairing pipes. That's a Band-Aid. That's not the root source of the problem. Uncontrolled water use is the problem. No permits for wells, deepest straw takes all, rock crushers being allowed in, huge water using industries moving to Williamson County because we have no restrictions. Thank you.
And I saved my favorite one for last, not necessarily because it's my favorite question, just because it's the one I really didn't want to ask, because it's a weird one. We'll start with county judge in this one. First part of the question, do you think Trump lost the election? How are you going to fight against outside political parties, left or right-wing extreme, from interrupting our democracy? So I guess it's a two-part question. First part of the question was, do you think Trump lost the election? And then the second part of the question was, how are you going to fight against outside political parties, left or right-wing extreme? So it sounds like they're saying, how are you going to fight against the extreme ends of the left or the right? Right? That's what it says.
Well, the question was twofold.
Yes.
Did President Trump lose the election? And the answer is yes to that. What was the second question?
Okay. Second part is, how do you fight against outside political parties? The wording is poor, but if I interpret it here, it sounds like what they're asking is, how do you fight against the extreme right and the extreme left? Maybe how do you find that middle ground? That's how I interpret the question. I just think it's poorly worded.
Well, so how I make decisions. I grew up at 1402 East Main Street in Round Rock, Texas. My dad was a gravel truck driver. My mom worked for the VA. I had 3 older sisters, and we didn't have a lot. But the values that I grew up with was that family was first, faith was important, and that we took care of one another. Today, there are a lot of extremes in America. Extremes that are not positive, that are more harmful than helpful. And I think for me, I have to remember where I came from. I remember what it was like growing up when we didn't have money for clothes for school. I remember what it was like when I would go to Gold's department store in Georgetown and get that new pair of Wranglers for school. And I was so grateful. I think how you make decisions, and not in the extremes, is you have to remember where you come from, and you have to remember who you are. And I think it's also important for me to remember that we are all children of God. We are all worthy of respect and dignity, regardless of where we come from. And if you're a resident here in Williamson County, I just humbly ask for your vote on November the 8th. And I'm here to represent all of the people. And I strive to do that every day. I don't know that I actually answered your extremes part, but that's just how I lead. I lead from where I come from.
Well, we'll go ahead and start with you for that question. I'll give you the first question. That's the easiest one. Do you think Trump lost the election?
Absolutely, yes.
And the second part is, how do you fight against the two extremes, and I guess bring everybody back to the middle?
We just, again, we need to stop this division. You know, we have more common than disagreement. And so it's important that we unite as one America, not 2 or 3 or 4 factions of America. And so, you know, I'll be reaching out to folks like I always do. You know, when I go out there and do public service, I don't care who it is, I'll shake hands with whoever. And that's how I treat people. I treat people with respect and dignity. It's always been part of my DNA. We might disagree about how Trump and his fiasco, but it is what it is. You know, they have their own beliefs, I have my own, but I'm not gonna disrespect them. And so I think it's important that, again, the key thing that we're having issues here, and especially in this state, is so much division. We can accomplish so much work and get so many things done if we all just unite and just try to do the right thing for the public. That's why you have other countries, they're outpacing us. because they're united. We're not united, and that's our own fault, and we need to fix that. And I'm gonna do whatever I can to, reach across the aisle. Meet me in the middle. Thank you.
Go ahead. You want me to?
No, thank you. At this point, I got it. Yes, and so for the second part of the question, just to give you a very clear example from 2017, from his very first term. About 2 months into session, we get a very high-profile far-right group with lots of money and lots of focus and attention when folks comes by our office, starts dropping off these stacks of paper about that tall, and they say to us, "We have messages here from your constituents. This is what they want to have happen." And first time that happened, it was just one of our interns out front who just accepted the paper. We looked at it. Photocopies of the exact same letter with different people's names and addresses at the bottom. And we go through and we actually start calling some of these people, look up their phone numbers, figure out who they are, call them and say, "Hey, did you actually want this message to come to us?" None of them knew a thing about what was, no, I never sent that. I have no idea why my name is on that. And the reason I use this example is because the extremes are not the majority by definition, right? But they are also, like, if you know your district and you're willing to contact your district and you're willing to talk to the people that are the constituents in the district, then they thrive on being the folks who are, no, we're the ones that are interceding between you and the people in your district, right? That's what they thrive on. We'll talk to them and then we'll tell you what they want, and you have to listen to us because we have the bead, right? And that's how they thrive. And they thrive, and you'll always see the extremes because there's always money to be made at the extremes. And that's where they are. And so the second time they came around dropping that packet of paper off, Terry was out front, and he handed it right back to him and said, "Hey, no, thank you. We've looked up the people, we don't trust this information, and we talked to our district." So they put out an email blast saying, "Hey, you guys, Terry Wilson does not want to hear from his constituents." And we started getting phone calls from people saying, "Hey, we hear that you don't want to talk to your constituents. You turned away this letter from this group." And so we made it a policy that whenever we got one of those calls, you spend as much time as possible with them, explain everything that happened, tell them the full story. And every one of the constituents said, "Yeah, no, I get it." And they have not paid attention to them again, and they have never bothered us again. And so how do you combat extremism and the folks who are profiteering off dividing folks and getting in between you and your representatives? You push back directly, and you say, you know your district, you contact your folks, and you don't pay attention to the loudest voices when they're just screaming and don't represent your district.
All right, so for anybody who knows me, it was kind of a struggle with how I wanted to end this thing, but the way I want to end it from the Chamber of Commerce perspective is I want to thank everybody for coming out here today. I think the challenging thing for me is, how do you figure out to, eliminate your own biases, because I don't care who you are, we're all going to vote for somebody, right? And if you're not going to vote for somebody, why are you in here, right? But, how do we remove that? How do we make an information vehicle for people to make their own decisions and not make that for them? And thank you guys for coming here. I really do very much. And I say guys, an all-inclusive term. I do apologize. I do that frequently, but you'll have to forgive me later. But the courage it takes to get up there and put your name out there, and the amount of work that I see a lot of you folks do is insane. And I appreciate the amount of effort that you put through. And I know you're just trying to do the right thing, right, for you and how that looks. And like I said, I do appreciate it. I would like to wrap it up with just a really quick 30-second, what do you love? Like, really what made you, that made you go, hey, I'm going to put my name on that ballot? just a quick 30-second, now you're gonna go after our opponent, like, what made you decide where you are right now? We'll just start here and go left to right, go ahead.
Well, I'm not gonna go after my opponent, but the reason I wanted to run for the court was I tried to change the actions and the behaviors of the court. And after several years of hitting a brick wall, I came to the realization that the only way to change the behavior of the court was to change the composition. And my military service taught me to step up, take charge, do the right thing, and be the leader in that capacity that I know I can be.
So my answer in the beginning is different than it is tonight. In the beginning, this was an open seat, and that is one of the reasons why I considered running for this position, but that was 7 months of consideration. It wasn't something that I immediately jumped into. 7 months I took considering even running for the position. Now, sitting a year and a half into preparing and campaigning, I know that I'm the right person for the position. I have that small business mindset, small business background, and I'm also a mother, and I'm a community engager. I've been involved in the Leander School Board, Leander Booster Club for 17 years. And so in that time of spending with my community in Leander, it wasn't about political parties. It was just about helping and doing what was right for the kids at the time in the school and providing the necessary equipment or jerseys or whatever they needed. And so I've always applied myself wherever I go. And I'm just excited to be here. I never thought I would ever be running for office. This is an absolute humbling experience. And I thank you all for being here this evening.
Yeah, what made me decide to run is because I'm tired of people suffering in this state. We have folks out there that are being taxed out of their homes. People can afford to buy new homes as well, especially the new generation. I'm running for office because there's no true representation. I'm running for office because I believe that we can do better when it comes to school shootings. I believe that we can do better when it comes to women's reproductive rights. I'm running for office because I know that we can do better for the LGBTQ community. And I also believe that we can do better for the minorities in our state, make sure that they're treated equally and fairly. And seniors as well, they've been underserved and overlooked. So I'm running for many, many reasons. I wish it was just maybe one or two, but we have so many issues here in our state. And Texans deserve better.
I'm running for re-election because I am hopeful about the future of Williamson County. I am hopeful about the opportunities that we have for our current residents as well as the new ones that are coming. It has been an honor to serve and to get to know people throughout the community, and there is an optimism that I see in people that is really encouraging, and they are excited about moving to Williamson County. The downstairs, the office in the building that I office in is where people come and get their new registrations for their cars. And I see people from lots of different places and take the opportunity to ask them why they're coming to Williamson County. And they're coming because of the opportunity, and the opportunity to get a great job and to buy a house that they want to be able to live in. And that didn't happen by accident. That happened because of leadership throughout the years to make sure that we were a place where people wanted to live, work, worship, and play. And I'm running for re-election to continue that we can be a place where the people that live here now and the people that are coming can continue to do that. I'm Cynthia Long, and I would be honored to have your vote for re-election for County Commissioner.
Judge Grillo asked me to go ahead and go first. So when he was first asked to run, it was in the folks out in Burnett County who couldn't get a call back from their current state rep who lived in Georgetown. And they said, well, folks won't, we can't even get a call back. No one shows up to stuff in our county or in Milam County. And so we don't actually think we can win, but like we'd like to just put a candidate out there to at least shake something up and maybe get a slight change in behavior on this and just get some attention for you. And then you won. And it was a little bit unexpected, and then the actual push of the service. And so it came down to, but that very same thing that started this, being asked to run because folks need to get a call back, they need to get an answer, has been the driving focus for him. And why he's running again in this new district is real simple, is to make sure that folks get a call back, make sure that someone's listening, make sure that someone's working with business, working with people, working with education, to make sure that every kid for the future of the state can do the thing that they want to do, get a job that they want, and do something that they want to do and have an opportunity to prosper in the future. It's that simple. Constituent services and the future of the state.
I'm running because I love Williamson County. When we moved here 22 years ago, I had no idea what the future held and how my friends and my neighbors would become my family. And I just can't imagine living anywhere else. And so I want to give back to the people that have lived around me and have supported me. And one of the ways that I can do that is through the Justice of the Peace. I truly believe that it is a position that can be life-changing for people. And to be able to meet people where they are is something I've always strived to do in all of my jobs. You've heard Jeff talk a lot about constituent services. That is what I do for Rep Busey. And I think that the Justice of the Peace is kind of a natural progression from that type of work. I listen to people's problems and I help them solve it. And I'm just very passionate about being able to serve my community and being able to help those around me. And I think this is a position that can be a community builder. So I'm honored to be on the ticket. I am honored to be able to run and put my name out there, and I really hope that I can earn y'all's vote. Thank you.
The morning that I was sworn in as county judge, two of my granddaughters came out in their princess dress. I have 5 grandkids, Ellie and Finley, Brinley, Walker, and Colt. They're all from age 4 to age 10. And their moms were critical of the dress that they were wearing, going, we're going to Pawpaw swearing in, you have to look better. And the girls were dejected and down because they had really thought about their attire for the day. And I got down on my knees and I asked the girls, why do you want to wear your princess dress? And they said, well, Pawpaw, we're going to go to your castle. You see, I office at the historic Williamson County Courthouse in downtown Georgetown. And to those little people, they think it's a castle. And the reality is, when I asked Ellie, do you want to wear that or do you want to wear something different? And she said, well, I really like my princess dress. Is that okay, Pawpaw? And you know what Pawpaw said? You can wear whatever you want. And I said, why do you like the castle? She said, Pawpaw, because it's a place where dreams come true. And the dreams that come true at the castle for those little kids is that Pawpaw takes them to the ice cream shop right across the street. And that Pawpaw takes them to the toy store and buys them toys. But the truth is, my grandkids still come and play on the courthouse square because it's safe. And I'm kind of old-fashioned and old school. I still think there are great things to be done here in Williamson County. And I do believe whether you're a little people or perhaps an old people like me, it's still a place where dreams can come true. My name's Bill Gravel. I'm the Republican nominee for Williamson County Judge, and I humbly ask for your vote on November the 8th. God bless you, and God bless Williamson County, Texas.
Like I said, thank you. Did I have this on? or I could just yell. Can everybody hear me? All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Again, thank you all for coming. I don't care whether you got an R next to your name or a D or whatever letter it is you want to stick on your name. It doesn't really matter. I appreciate your courage. I appreciate your sacrifice. And I appreciate you for putting, family and life and everything right out in the limelight. It's not an easy thing to do. I appreciate all of you for being here. I think state and local elections are literally the most important elections on the face of the planet. And I think our differences really are what make us great, right? Because we can make those all come together. Thank you guys so much for coming. Anybody out here, if you need to talk to me, I'm more than willing to talk to you after this. And you guys have a great weekend, and go Panthers.
Thanks for putting it together. It's great, man. Do it again.